Good evening. We're looking today at apostrophes and punctuation of titles according to MLA format. Wow, change that. So we just want to cover these few things to hopefully hash out any final questions that we have and start to see our papers getting more of this proper usage worked in generally. All right, so let's get started with apostrophes. All right, so to begin with, there's a lot that can be said about apostrophes, but in general, your main concerns are whether or not the word is plural or possessive. From there, you're able to see that really you have a pretty clear path. If it's plural, you typically do not need an apostrophe, so no apost. All right. If it's possessive, chances are you're going to need an apostrophe. Let me show you some examples of what I mean, because there are the exceptions, of course, and that would be when it's both of those things, and also names that end in S. So let's have a look first at a traditional possessive case. All right, so here we have Jake's ice cream. Whose ice cream? Jake's ice cream. Boom. What if I say something like this? What if I say Jake's friends? Boom. Apostrophe, anyone? Apostrophe? Here, perhaps? No. That's just straight plural. We got it coming over here, though, again, because you say whose friends? Jake's friends. Now let's look at a name that ends in S and see how we do that. And here we have Thomas. Thomas's bike. Now, generally, you do that, but grammatically, you can do this. It's up to you, and you want to be consistent. Don't switch between going like this and going like this within your writing. Just try to be consistent. Again, if anyone is trying to be all dogmatic with you, just recognize this is a gray area and up to your choice, okay? All right, so we've looked at the singular possessive, and here's an example of a plural possessive. Typically, last names will work well with this because the whole family typically. Well, let me see. Here we go. Name that ends in S. With a plural. So if I say something like, here we go, I got it, sorry. My mind's all like blanking. So we have Johnson's, all right. If I were to add in the Johnson's front yard, okay. Something like this. Boy, I like this green, man, it really pops. Let's say it wasn't just like one family. Let's say it was multiple families and they owned a large piece of property. That'll help you visualize it, where here we would have the plural possessive because their actual last name would be Johnson. So like, Theodore Johnson. And then when it's pluralized, you just put the possessive apostrophe outside of it to represent the plural possessive, okay? In general, you just ask yourself questions. You say, whose front yard? This person's. How many of them are there? Well, there's more than one, so boom. If you were to ask something like, if I were to write down here, Jake's front yard, maybe it's a single person living there, and you would simply say, whose front yard? Oh, well, it's Jake's. Are there multiple Jakes? Probably not. Probably not living under the same roof, right? Most people have different names, unless they're, again, sharing a last name. So I think that covers apostrophes, and I want to start just seeing more across the board usage of them. And there are some special cases dealing with like when you're talking about letters and numbers, and we had a nice discussion about that, I think. Contractions are important too, and I just want to do one thing, and that is to look at the puzzling word "it's" if you're ever confused about it. what we have here is typically what we might say. If I were to say it's tongue or something like that, like, oh, it's would you mind go grabbing its tongue? I mean, like that's kind of like, I don't know why I keep thinking of lingua. You know, if you ever have tacos and they have lingua, tongue in them, and we would, you know, be talking about the cow's tongue, we'd be talking about its tongue. But you know, down here, it would be a totally different case. Even though this is possessive, it is possessing it, you don't put an apostrophe there. Anytime you see this, the apostrophe, it's always a contraction, okay, of it is. So that's like the one exception that's pretty common. And I haven't really seen that mistake, to be quite honest, so that's not a huge one. Let me just quickly cover title punctuation. All right, so really simply, poems, short stories, articles, chapters and books, these things get quotes, all right, quotation marks around them. And for with anything like novel titles, play titles, film names, trying to think of anything else that we would use, like the name of a magazine, okay, we'd get that if we ever need to, but in general, these things, there are a few others, but we don't really use those that often, can either get underlined or italicized, okay? Now for our article, since it has a play title in the title, let's see how it would be punctuated. Alright, so here's our article title, and you may have guessed it, but because I can't write italics, I'm going to underline it. The entire rest of the article's in quotes, and then the title of the work is underlined or italicized. So let's start seeing some of these changes. I would really like it if in your final draft you don't have any of these mistakes, and do your best to avoid them. Alright? Good luck, you guys.